Hi, and welcome back for my September wrap-up and another reading journal update and flip-through. It was a pretty good reading and journaling month, so I'm excited to talk about the books and show the spreads. I got to a lot of books that had been on my TBR for a very long time, so I'm really glad I got to these this month. The first book I read was The House in the Cerulean Sea. The book starts with, "Oh dear," Linus Baker said, wiping the sweat from his brow. Linus Baker, the main character, is a caseworker at Daikomi, the department in charge of magical youth, which means that he visits and reports on orphanages where magical children are put in. He's very good at his job, he's very meticulous and the epitome of integrity. With that being said, his work-life balance is really bad, and his life is kind of sad. His boss and colleagues are bullies, and he doesn't seem to have any friends except for his cat, Calliope, who is a sassy and moody cat. One day he gets this special assignment because he's known for his detailed work and his sense of responsibility, and so he's sent off to a secret case to visit an orphanage on Marcy's Island, which according to extremely upper management is non-traditional and the children are problematic. It's not really optional, so Linus soon leaves for the island, and once he gets there he meets 6 magical children and their caretaker, who are all just a little different from the ones he's encountered before. This book is just like a Pixar movie that will tug on your heartstrings gently with heartwarming moments, and eventually will make you cry softly with a smile on your face as it gently breaks your heart and patches it back up. I did talk about this book in a bit more length in a reading vlog where I go into more detail about what I really liked about the book and the issues I had with it. I will leave a link to that video in the cards. What I will say now is that I thought it was a super comforting read, full of hope and love, and the characters are super lovable, and I got really attached to this book and the people in it. I also read this super fast, so if you're in a reading slump, it's the perfect book. It may be 400 pages, but it really doesn't feel like it. For the spread, I made a simplified drawing of the house on the left side and added one of the quotes from the book that says, "Because even the bravest of us can still be afraid sometimes, so long as we don't let fear become all we know." On the right side, I cut out pieces of paper in blue and purple and wrote some short thoughts on a regular piece of paper and then arranged them so it kind of looks like waves. And for the title of the book, I went for a font that I felt was a bit more playful than the one on the cover, which I thought fit better with the book. The second book I read was Such a Fun Age by Reid, which starts with, "That night, when Miss Chamberlain called, the mirror could only piece together the words, 'Take Briar somewhere' and 'Pay double.'" This was a very compelling read that I binged in just 2 sessions. The author's vivid descriptions made me feel right there in the moment with the characters. And this meant very real and eye-opening moments and thoughts on racism and prejudice, but also very adorable moments of having a small child in the room, and then also loads and loads of secondhand embarrassment as you watch these characters interact. Despite finding it very well written and speeding through it, I couldn't quite connect with the characters. So while the storyline really stuck with me, none of the people in the story really did. They all felt quite distant from the reader, and so I didn't really get attached. Overall, I did enjoy reading this book, and I definitely suggest it to anyone who likes contemporary fiction, and I think it also just brings up some really important issues of racism and prejudice, so I would recommend it for that as well. For the spread, I drew some floral shapes on the left page and then colored some of them in with dark purple and a goldish color. On the right, I stuck some similar colored paper down on which I wrote my thoughts in the book and then lined it with the same purple around it. Next, I read The Midnight Library by Haig. One quote from the book that really encompasses the feeling of this book is, "It can drive you insane, thinking of all the other lives we don't live." Now, as someone who is an overthinker, I got worried in the beginning that this book would just make me more anxious about all my life decisions, but actually The Midnight Library has a beautiful message of self-acceptance, self-worth, and hope. It contains a lot of nuggets of wisdom about the importance of the small things in life, making mistakes, things that are out of our control. And while they're often expressed through cliches or chess metaphors, it makes for a very comforting read. I liked the writing, which was very easy to read, and so I finished it in no time. I was maybe a little bit underwhelmed because this book was hyped up so much, and I wouldn't say it was a 5-star read, but overall I did really enjoy it, and I would recommend it to anyone who is looking for a casual, comforting read. However, some trigger warnings of suicide, depression, and self-harm. For the spread, I wanted something with an academia aesthetic. So on the right, I put down some craft paper as a background and wrote The Midnight Library in block letters. I drew some books on green paper and then cut them out and finished the drawings off on the craft paper background. On the left side, I drew some hanging lamps, fitting the description of The Midnight Library, and then wrote a short review of the book under it. I also finished 2 nonfiction books this month that I had been reading for a while. The first one was Me and White Supremacy, which explores how to recognize your privilege, combat racism, and change the world. This book is a step-by-step guide to both learning about white privilege, as well as stereotypes, appropriation, allyship, etc., but also to learn about yourself and your own assumptions, biases, privilege. This is the type of book you really want to take your time with and keep a journal as you're going through it, which I did in a separate space. And it is quite intensive and it can be quite an emotional journey. I think that this book is really valuable as a resource and a great place to start in exploring privilege and prejudice and bias. The book also provides a number of further reading to continue your journey. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is prepared to put in the effort. While it requires a lot of work from the reader's part, I think the author has made it very accessible and easy. They also have a guided journal that allows for some extra guidance in the process. I also read Healing from Hate, a book about how young men get into and out of violent extremism. This book is a lot more academic and might not be for everyone if this is not your particular area of interest, but it explores the gender process of engagement and disengagement from violent extremism through different case studies in Germany, Sweden, the US, and Britain. It's a very interesting read if you're interested in this specific topic. For these 2 spreads, I kept it very simple since I really prefer to focus on the content with nonfiction. One thing I always do in my notes of nonfiction is write down the table of contents. I find it really useful to look back and see what was covered. So that is what I did here. And for Healing from Hate, I also wrote down the main argument in the book, much like when I would be reading journal articles or other academic books. I decorated with some colored and patterned paper and washi tape. Now for the final flip through, including some missing authors and some extra doodles here and there. These are the books that I read this month. As I was editing this, I remembered that I also reread Matilda, one of my childhood favorites, this month, and completely forgot to make a spread, so stay tuned for this one in next month's wrap-up. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to see the upcoming content. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.